Some of you may remember Miley Cyrus's 2014 VMAs acceptance speech, which she used as a platform to raise awareness for the homeless youth of America. Jesse, a homeless youth that Miss Cyrus had reached out to, was given the opportunity to provide his forgotten, silenced, and overlooked people group with a voice. Fortunately for Jesse and those in similar situations, Miss Cyrus isn't the only one who's looking out for them. There's an entire profession dedicated to helping those in need. This is a profession that can affect and change generations. They're just ordinary people who are dedicated to pursuing a career in social work and improving the quality of life for everyone. I've completed extensive research on this topic as I've viewed my options for a career path, and I'd like to share just a bit of what I've learned. First, I'll tell you about who can become a social worker, then review the responsibilities, and last, I'll show you the power of their influence. So, what would it take for you to become a social worker? Are there specific talents, or is there a mold that you have to fit into? Some names of social workers that you might know are Alice Walker, award-winning author, Dr. Stephen Perry, reality TV star, Jane Addams, Nobel Peace Prize recipient, and Jeanette Rankin, the first female elected to Congress. Whether you're a good writer, good with words, a politician interested in passing laws, an actor, a scientist, it doesn't matter. Social workers have all sorts of different interests and talents. Social workers don't fit into a specific mold because they work with people outside of what's considered the normal mold. People who are impoverished, abused, abandoned, etc. There are some emotional skills that help social workers succeed in their work, which include patience, tolerance, and good communication. It's important, since they work with a diverse group of people and problems, that there's always an open mind there amongst the social workers, both when dealing with people and when looking for a solution. Now that we've touched on the type of people who become social workers, let's focus on what their responsibilities look like. Former Senator Daniel Inouye said, I quote, "Social workers practice not only in the traditional social service agency, but also in elementary schools, in the military, in business, factories and offices, in federal, state, and local government agencies and legislative bodies, in private practice as individual, family, and marriage therapists, in hospitals and in mental health facilities, in courts and correctional settings, in home health care, and in services to the elderly. In fact, social workers can be found anywhere and everywhere there are people who need the help of a professional to alleviate personal or social problems." End quote. According to the U.S. Department of Labor Bureau of Labor Statistics website, social work is one of the fastest growing careers in the U.S. Social workers are basically everywhere. They don't just work with the homeless, elderly, mentally ill anymore. Depending on where they focus their passion, there are many disadvantaged people groups that you could work with. Some of the responsibilities that cover all of those focuses of social workers are you have to identify problems, you have to see where there's a need, and you have to find a solution. You create helping relationships between people and organizations so that they can help each other. Social workers have to work with other professionals, judges, doctors, therapists. They don't do anything on their own. They're like the conductors that do the research, connect the dots, working with all the sides to find the best solution for everybody. Moving on to my third and final point, I'm going to show you some examples of actual incidences in which a social worker made a lasting impression in the lives of many. Frank Campbell, who is a social worker who focuses on suicidology, marked his greatest accomplishment as, I quote, "I am most proud of the volunteers and staff members from all over the world who make up the many local outreach suicide survivor teams who have been reaching out to help those bereaved by suicide all over the world since 1997, end quote. Social workers literally save lives. When problems are too much for people to handle on their own, social workers are there to give them a hand and another option. Social workers fight against injustices made against individuals and work to influence lawmakers to take notice of these problems and push them to create more just and fair bills. Barbara Mikulski cites her greatest accomplishment as, quote, "strengthening the safety net for seniors by passing the Spousal Anti-Impoverishment Act, which changed the cruel rules of government that forced people, especially seniors, to go bankrupt while paying for a spouse's nursing home care." By showing compassion to those who cannot find a solution on their own or are silenced, social workers are able to fix current problems and prevent them from happening again in the future. Anyone can be a social worker. Writers, politicians, actors, they've all been social workers. Their responsibilities differ depending on the specific area that they decide to focus on, but the overall role is to help others, to connect their problem to a solution. By creating solutions, social workers are able to impact and ultimately change the world. You don't have to be Miley Cyrus or even a social worker to make a difference in someone's life. But if you want to make a career out of helping others, you might want to think about becoming a social worker. Or you could try to be Miley Cyrus. But I think that'd probably be a little more difficult.